I think that was in June.
Yeah, it's months they do it. Mayor Panko, we're on.
Okay.
Good evening and welcome to our November 25th Committee of the Whole meeting of Smith Falls Town Council. Tonight we have a full council. We do have regrets from Councillor Quinn. I'll begin with the land acknowledgement. On November 25th, 2024, we acknowledge that the sacred land on which Smith Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation. We are grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We are also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smith Falls. We are mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together we pray for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace, friendship, and being mindful of generations to come. So I'll call the meeting to order at 5:01. I'll look for an approval of the agenda that the November 25th Committee of the Whole meeting agenda be approved as circulated. Moved by Councillor Robinson, second by Councillor McGuire. All in favor? Oh, sorry. Sorry, I'm going too quick.
If we could please add a priority item, which number would it be? It would be 10.3, 2023 financial statements.
Okay. So I'll ask for a motion to move the Committee of the Whole meeting amended agenda be approved to circulate. Councillor Robinson, Councillor McGuire, all in favor? Okay. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest and/or conflict of interest and nature thereof? Seeing none. Motion for approval of the minutes of the October 28th, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting be approved as circulated. Moved by Councillor McGuire, second by Councillor Robinson. All in favor? Okay. So we're happy to have a delegation tonight. Ann Jansen, Volunteer Executive Director of Hospice Hub Update. And welcome to you, Ann, and we're all ears.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor and councillors. I'm really happy to be here again. Second time in 1 year. Hope to be coming back again soon next year. There's a lot happening and unfolding. Carrie was very wise to remind me that I should not, that this material is all new. So there's just a few moments of reminders. The first one is the joke, and I don't know if you can read it, but is there any history of death in your family? If anybody here has any history of death. Okay. Just to remind us why we're all interested in this. Okay, so quick reminders. 70% of people would like to die at home, 70% die in the hospital. Cost of dying in the hospital is 10 times more than it is at home, 4 times more than it would be in a hospice residence. The healthcare system is in crisis. We don't need that reminder. We don't have a palliative care program, no hospice, no residents here. And the outpatient palliative care is too far away to actually receive responsive and timely proper care. So dying people and their families are often not receiving the right care at the right time nor in the right place. And then finally, dying is a social event in which 80% of care is actually provided in the home by family and community rather than in a hospital. Only 20% is actually a medical, and at end of life, even medical interventions are generally not required. So our vision is this compassionate community where everyone can live, age, die, and grieve well wherever they call home. I went through this last time, so I won't do it again today, but the hospice is a hub of different services for somebody who's at end of life and their family and into bereavement. So it starts with home support, and then it continues through day support, day hospice, hospice residence, and into grief and bereavement. If I'm going too fast, I'm hoping to leave a couple of, or 5 minutes for questions at the end, and I've got 10 minutes. So the Hospice Hub, since we last met, which was in January this year, we've established a robust volunteer program, our program is super intensive. It's a 8-week program where the volunteers come together for 3 hours every week. We have local experts that come in to provide very relevance to make the program as relevant as possible to what's happening in our local area. It's based on the Hospice Palliative Care Ontario standards. We've ramped up bereavement support. There's ongoing bereavement programs here in Smith Falls and throughout our catchment area. We've increased the number of advanced care planning sessions to respond to community demand. People are asking for advanced care planning on a regular basis, which is great. We've kicked off our annual Hike for Hospice and raised a phenomenal amount of $82,000. And the reason I mention it is because that has allowed us to do the next thing, which is hire a nurse coordinator. It's also a huge success and is definitely indicative of the need, and that the community's recognition of the need for hospice in our area. And Hospice Home Support is now actively taking clients, and that thrills me to no end. The testimonials that we're having that are coming in from the people that are being supported in their homes or just by phone through navigation support is, well, I start to cry when I read them, because this is what we're doing and why we've been working so hard over the last several years to get this up and running. And it's amazing how much the support is needed and how gratefully it is being received. So the Hospice Home and Bereavement Support, the two main programs that I wanted to update you about today. What we do is we provide companionship, information, which is so essential and hard to find often, really connecting people to the right care at the right time and helping them to know what's available. So the reason I wanted to even present to you today is that I'm hoping that you'll be able to take this as ambassadors to the community and let people in your community know what is available to them now. Caregiver respite, a much needed break for the family and caregivers. Healthcare system navigation, and this is assistance in navigating the complexities of the healthcare system. It's mind-boggling in the best of times. If you're at end of life and things are, or even in the last 6 months, and you're dealing with a lot of other things, the caregiver is dealing with a lot of emotional, difficult decisions that need to be made. The healthcare system it feels almost impenetrable, actually. So having support for that at end of life is a huge relief. Advocacy, that's making sure that you do receive the right care at the right time. Often you wouldn't know that you need to make sure that the medications are in place on Thursday, because over the weekend you're not going to be able to reach your healthcare provider, or it takes 3 days to actually order these the medications. So there's a lot of advocacy on your behalf. You're never going to be left. You're not going to be told, go to a website, or here you can call this number. We'll actually do it and make sure that it's done. And I think that's called Peter, you would probably know. It's a warm handshake, or not a warm handshake. It's a warm handoff. It's definitely not just a handshake. And I think it's more. It's completed. What's needed is completed. One-on-one companioning in grief, closed and walk-in groups for grief and bereavement, and then of course the education, which is on grief, on advanced care planning, on caregiving, on just what you can expect at end of life, and so forth. Those are ongoing. So just a summary, we have the Hospice Home Support Program up and running, the Grief and Bereavement Support Program up, ongoing community education and engagement. We have a sold-out event on Thursday this week. There's more than 105 people that have signed up for our annual Palliative Care Education Day. Shows you how much people are interested and wanting to learn. The Polar Bear Plunge, which I will come back to, is on January 1st. Very important, as one of our events are our big fundraisers, and which allow us to do the work we're doing. The Day Hospice program will be up and running, and we're going to be starting in Smith Falls in the spring of 2025. Hike for Hospice will be our annual event, and then the Hospice Residence coming soon to a neighborhood near you in winter 2017. So a very ambitious but attainable goal. These are the 4 beds that have been allocated to the Smith Falls and Perth area already in 2018, and we're hoping to have them actualized. We're not hoping, we will. So just a quick summary, the Hospice Hub keeps dying people out of the hospital. It supports the grieving community, and with every death, there are at least 5 people that are impacted by the death. So there's a lot of people that are left behind who we need to be taking care of as well. The Hospice Hubs, our aim is to break down the healthcare silos and make the connections that are so essential to quality end of life. And that is because things are moving quickly. It is not just one agency that will be involved in your care. It's a lot of the community agencies, PSWs, nurses, etc. It saves the system money, as I already said, and it builds the capacity of the community, healthcare, and social agencies to work together. So by having them work together at this time in the healthcare journey or at end of life, they create the connections they need, and they see the benefit of working together. It breaks down the silos for future work that they might be doing as well. So not just at end of life, but in all aspects during the healthcare, when we're at any time, if that makes sense. Okay, it leaves us with memories. This is, to me, the kind of why I got into this in the first place with my hospice experience. It leaves us with memories of love rather than resentment and regret. We know that we've done the very best we can and that the system has done the very best it can as well. We can't take away all the suffering. Suffering is part of life, but we can at least reduce the suffering that is caused by a system that has failed us. The system doesn't need to fail us. And it brings comfort in the midst of loss, knowing our loved one was cared for in the best way possible according to their wishes. This is where, by speaking about it, by providing support throughout the journey at end of life, the family, the caregivers, healthcare providers all know the wishes of the person. And after the person has gone, there is no finger pointing, no blaming, no resentment, because we know that we've done everything we could according to their wishes, to the best of our ability. So summary, of course, reduces suffering and increases quality of life. And it taps into the incredible strengths of the community. And this is the Plunge for Hospice, a huge community event. We're very proud to be the recipients, to have been chosen as the recipients for January 1st, 2025. We have a goal of 40,000, but of course we really like to double our goals. And at the rate we're going, I think we will. Again, why it's so important is because it raises awareness amongst the community. It's a fundraiser, and awareness raiser, and friend raiser. So it's not just the funds, but the funds will allow us to hire staff, because the volunteers, we're getting a little tired. We will be relentless and we will continue, but we need staff who do this as part of their everyday, that are paid to do so as well. So we have Rob Rayner, who's the Reeve of Tay Valley Township, who is going to plunge. We have Gary Waterfield from Perth. We still are looking for the Smith Falls representative, but it's huge. And of course, we'll be going to Portland. And if you can't plunge, you can have someone to plunge for you in your name, in your honor. More important than plunging is the support that people will give to you as a plunger. So I see the smiles. I was going to say I'm not putting you on the spot, but I clearly am. And then we ask that you spread the word. Spread the word of the services that are available to people now. We're getting referrals from Ontario Health at Home. We're getting referrals directly from the people in the community themselves, from physicians and from the hospital. But the word still needs to get out that this is available to our community and the residents here. And the pamphlet that you were given doesn't have, we just printed a new batch, and I didn't have them at home when I came here, but the phone number is not yet on there. So if you want to write it, or I will send, Carrie has this as well. So the idea is really that we serve anyone, anywhere they call home, and we help you receive the most appropriate care at the right time and in the right place. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. So questions and comments, Councillor McKenna?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And you've taken a really difficult, complicated, and emotional topic, and really your communication skills, the slides were perfect. Like, it's one of the best presentations I've seen in a long time, because it's just so effective. Thank you. And I do thank all of the volunteers, especially for this journey. It's very, very important. And it's one of the last parts of the health system that is not really funded or organized by government. It's very much grassroots. There is emerging money coming from provincial and federal governments, but it's not like the other parts of the health system. It really does rely on neighbors and friends and good people like you and your team. I can't commit to the plunge. I was looking at Chief Cheeseborough to see if I could use some of the winter cold water training equipment and borrow that and jump in with that on. But I'll certainly sponsor people.
Wonderful.
I don't know if it needs to be a younger person or just a more foolish person.
Yeah, maybe a mix of both somehow.
I got half of that, but not the youth. So thank you.
Thank you very
Very
much. Hearing this is very helpful and encouraging and empowering. I know that you've been a big part of getting us to this point as well, Councillor. Right. And you know, you have to be careful because last time we quoted you inside out when you said that we had made the most progress over the, so I hope someone got his words down. You can quote him again.
We do have a younger person on council, just saying.
Is he foolish?
Everybody's younger than me right now.
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you, Ann.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I did have a sort of a question because in one of the slides you mentioned 2027 and the residence hospice. So that would be a physical location for people.
Yes. So that means we're going to actually start a capital fundraising campaign because that is bricks and mortar. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's great. So I think that we got this information and I will certainly promote and talk about it in the community. I'm sure everybody else will. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you again.
you.
And thanks, Carrie, for all your help.
Welcome.
Yeah.
I will grab that. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Item 7 is CO Director's verbal reports. I believe we have 3. I'll hand it over to CO Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we do have 3, and we can start off with Mr. Granke.
Three quick updates from Development Services relating to consultation activities that we're undertaking. Firstly, staff and our consultants at Stantec held the second open house on Thursday, November 7th to present Stantec's findings on the proposed Heritage Conservation District, including the boundaries of a proposed district. The event was well advertised, including outreach to the DBA and downtown business owners who would be the ones situated in a hypothetical Heritage Conservation District. Recognizing that an in-person open house cannot be the only way to obtain feedback, a brief survey seeking input on the HCD study was also distributed to the Chamber and DBA for their distribution, and has also been posted on our website and through social media. The survey is open through to this Thursday, the 28th. Our downtown business community is, of course, a key engagement target, of course. However, we also invite the broader community's feedback as well, as an HCD would help define a sense of place that impacts how the community would experience the downtown. The purpose of the survey is to help determine whether consultants got it right in the draft, and we encourage those who haven't to take a peek on the Heritage Conservation District study and complete the survey. The draft study will be finalized following consideration of feedback we received, and we're on track to post a finalized draft shortly after the 28th, so Council has an opportunity to review the document before Stantec's presentation on December 9th. Planning staff are also in the process of doing the background work on the Community Improvement Plan Monitoring Report, which we will present to Council in December. The report, like the one we did last year, assesses the financial status of the CIP and also how the program is rolled out and administered. Staff have reached out to 2024 applicants for their feedback and experience, and this will inform potential program or operational adjustments to ensure the CIP is responsive to community needs and is actually the good news story that it should be. Finally, switching gears to the climate action, the Climate Protection Working Group has launched a Milestone 2 survey for the public. The survey intends to do 2 things. Firstly, inform and generate interest on the upcoming climate action plan, and also assess interest on a range of potential emission reduction strategies and approaches that might be considered in a climate action plan. The survey is posted on the municipal website and social media, and will also go out in water bill inserts for e-billing and the paper bills when those get distributed. This is the public's first opportunity to provide feedback on some preliminary ideas and also provide ideas of their own, and we're planning on leaving the survey up for a couple of months to provide a pretty big lead time. We encourage residents to visit the Climate Protection Working Group page in the community section of our website to complete the survey. And that concludes my update this evening, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Director. Questions or comments for Carl? No, thank you. Good to know that we got public input on these things. So thank you. And next up.
Next up, we have Chief Cheeseborough.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 4 quick updates. I wish to advise you that we're currently on pace with the number of emergency responses from last year. And we fully anticipate that we'll be just around the 300 call volume again or slightly over. The next item, on November 21st, we received notification from the province that we have been approved for the Next Generation grant funding, third and final round, in the amount of $201,500. So we're anticipating that will cover all associated expenses with regards to Next Generation 911. It is anticipated that the first quarter of 2025 is when we're scheduled to do the switchover. So we're currently working with Owen Sound, who's going to be the host for the Next Generation 911 for Smiths Falls. And they're in the process of delivering the final hardware and software and testing out the system. So hopefully it'll be up and running in a test mode throughout December, and then when we're prepared to switch over. The next item, bylaw currently has 35 active property standards cases, and they're growing daily. And that's the small part of it. The processing of these orders, the follow-up of the orders, when the orders expire, then we proceed to provincial offences court on some. On the others, we're initiating court actions, and we currently have 2 upcoming court cases for the property standards, one being tomorrow, one in early January. So our two bylaw officers have been extremely busy over the last few months, just staying pace with the property standards. That seems to be the most dominant aspect of the bylaw operation. And lastly, a good news story. We were very honored and privileged to have a visit from the Solicitor General, the Honorable Michael Kersner, along with MPP John Jordan. They routinely, on their course throughout the province, when they're traveling to various meetings, the Solicitor General plans out a schedule so he can stop in each town, in each city, in each village and meet with both fire and police and go through and talk to them and get information on what's going on with their service. They spent probably 15, 20 minutes here doing a tour, speaking with the firefighters and before they moved on to police and then on to Kempville. So you don't often see that. It's the first in my career that we've had a high-ranking official that's actually taken the time to stop in and see exactly what's going on with the fire department and what challenges we face, but also to enlighten us on the things that they're doing. And one of the big things that Mr. Kersner had indicated was his promotion of the cancer prevention and awareness for the firefighters and the increased expansion of that and grant funding that we have submitted for that. So we're hopeful within the next couple of weeks that we'll hear on that application. And we have a third application in for emergency management preparedness, and we're hoping to hear back on that. So there's a lot of grant money up for grabs, and we're hoping to certainly get our piece of it. That is my updates for this evening, Mr.
Thank you,
Chair.
Chief. Questions or comments for the Chief?
Just a hats off on the grant that was received and good luck on the next ones. And please pass on our thanks to the bylaw officers. It's quite evident how hard they're working. We appreciate it.
Well said. Thank you, Chief. And last but not least,
Yes, our Director of Corporate Services, Mr. Dauber, is going to explain why we added an item to the agenda.
As CEO Morris said, I'm here to apologize for and explain exactly why we have this addition tonight. Some information that I just became aware of today. To give a little bit of context, the 2024 interim audit is due to start tomorrow morning, which will last for the rest of the week. And then our full audit is scheduled for March 31st, the week of March 31st. Found out today that they are not prepared to move forward tomorrow morning without the 2023 audited financial statements having a resolution as being passed by council. So we just found this out this afternoon. A little bit of a surprise. The problem is if we were to wait, if they don't start tomorrow, we'd be moving the interim audit to January or February, and then our March date would move to May or June, and then we'd be back to having late statements. So I apologize. I haven't worked with KPMG in an awful long time. And I should have anticipated this, but unfortunately I did not. So I ask for your forgiveness for that, and hopefully we can move through it quickly.
Thank you. We're happy to tick that box for you. No problem. And that's it. Okay, so we have a brief in camera. I believe it's brief. And I'll look for a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls is provided by Section 239 2B of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, move in a closing session at 5:25 to discuss personal matters of it about an identifiable individual. We'll be right back. Oh, Councillor Miller, Councillor Robinson, all in favor? Welcome back. We are back from our in-camera, which we discussed a personal matter of an identifiable individual, and that's going to come forward at our special council meeting upcoming after this.
If we could add as a priority item. this evening.
Yeah, okay, so it'll be a priority item tonight at 10.4. Great, okay. So we'll move on to priority issues and reports. First one was with Director Grinke, 18 Elm Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening. Staff are presenting a recommendation that Council authorizes the execution of a development agreement between the town and MTM Construction Property Management Limited regarding a new residential development at 18 Elm Street East. In September, the Planning Advisory Committee approved concurrent consent and minor variance applications to enable the redevelopment of the property, which previously contained a single house on a relatively large lot. The property is a through lot with frontage on both Elm Street East and Oak Street. The new owners of the lot propose to construct an 8-unit residential building and at the same time divide the lot in half with the lot line running down the central wall of the building. On each new lot would be a total of 4 dwelling units, 3 one-bedroom and 1 2-bedroom. The building would actually look a little bit like a back-to-back semi-detached with units and accesses facing both Elm and Oak. So Elm would be defined as the front yard, but essentially it would orient to both streets. Through the review of the planning applications for this intensification, a need for low-impact development and grading and drainage plan were identified in order to mitigate impacts on the existing neighborhood. The committee approved the minor variance with the condition that these be established and implemented in a development agreement that spells out the completion and maintenance of the necessary works as defined by the developer's engineer and reviewed and approved by our Public Works Department. Accordingly, the owner has completed these plans and has requested the development agreement to satisfy the condition and is in the process of finalizing the agreement with staff. At this point, our recommendation is that Council adopts the bylaw authorizing the execution of the agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Thumbs up. Thank you for that. And as Councillor Robinson and I are members of the Planning Advisory Committee, so that was a little bit of a challenging file, and I want to congratulate you and Richard and Marie too for guiding that through. And I think it's a good use of that land, and actually it's intensification, which is something that we're really looking for. So you've got support for that, and I don't see that on for tonight, but it'll be on the next council meeting.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And the next one is the housekeeping amendments. And you've got it again for the zoning bylaw.
Staff, our second report this evening is we're coming forward with a recommendation that Council adopts a series of housekeeping amendments to our 2022 zoning bylaw. Well, a lot of work goes into drafting a new zoning bylaw. It's normal that in the life of the bylaw that some anomalies come up as we use it every day in our day-to-day work. A zoning bylaw is a legally enforceable text, and staff share our stakeholders' desire that its terms, definitions, and provisions are clear. So with that in mind, in September, we proposed a set of amendments to address formatting consistency and administrative type items that we had identified over the last couple of years. Council directed us to proceed with the formal amendment process, including public notification. On October 17th, the Planning Advisory Committee hosted the public meeting to consider the proposed zoning amendments. While there's no public in attendance, the PAC carefully considered the proposed wording and following discussion and clarification, passed a resolution recommending their approval to Council. The proposed wording that we have before you includes what was presented to Council in September with a couple of minor changes, including the removal of a group dwelling parking requirements as noted in the report and a semi-detached side yard setback requirements. And those are still referenced in Appendix A of this the bylaw there. Applicable provisions have been reviewed with other departments and outside agencies. At this time, staff recommend that Council passes a bylaw adopting the housekeeping zoning changes as documented in Appendix A of the subject report with the additional technical tweak noted in the recommendation section of this report. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that. Questions and comments? Councilor McGuire?
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and thanks, Carl. I'm wondering, I find the wording a little bit confusing, and I'm just trying to get my head straight on it. So I'm wondering, with the zoning bylaw, we're trying to regulate uses and not activities. But the way I'm understanding the keeping of animals section, it's still trying to regulate activities. And I just would like more information on the difference of a use versus an activity and how the proposed wording improves the strength of our zoning bylaw towards a use.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the with respect to the keeping of animals, so I think poultry has been the key topic, but certainly doesn't need to be limited to that. In residential zones, the way we look at it is the primary use of the property is residential. Somebody lives there, that's their house, that's and anything that kind of goes along with that. If they're gardening, if they're keeping a dog, or even if they're in the sense that what we're looking at and what council is looking at with respect to the keeping of poultry, council isn't really, or at least the sense that I've been looking at was we're not really looking at it at a scale that's really a fundamentally an agricultural use. If this was in the country and you're keeping lots of poultry, you're egg farming or something like that, that would be one thing. It would be an agricultural use. In this case, sort of the scale of the activity we're looking at is something that's part and parcel, part of what somebody's doing on their own property as part of their residential use. It's almost a hobby associated with the primary residential use that hasn't really gotten to the point of transitioning to kind of an agricultural or a farming operation, similar in essence to a backyard, to a vegetable garden or something like that. So based on that, our opinion is that the best place to regulate that is through a specific bylaw under the Municipal Act, where council, if they so choose, can choose to permit it according to certain provisions that are easier to enforce than a zoning action, which is not that easy to enforce.
Through the chair, with a follow-up, that makes a lot of sense to me, but it leads me to the question of why do we even have a keeping of animals section in the zoning bylaw if it doesn't have anything to do with the use? Why is and the open question, why isn't it adequate just to deal with it through the animal control bylaw? Why do we need to have it in the zoning if it's not a zoning issue?
I'll give Carl. Go ahead, Carl.
So in this case, the wording in section 4.16 largely deals, so no animals other than household, the current wording, no animals other than household pets shall be kept in any zone except as permitted, and that's where it goes into, identifies a number of different uses. So an animal care, hospital, kennel, that are sort of higher order fundamental uses that are a little bit different or more substantial than this. And also looks at agricultural uses separately. So I think in this case, the section is in place to kind of separate the domestic use associated with the residential zone from the more intensive and separate land uses such as animal hospitals, agricultural uses, kennels, those sorts of things. That's the sense that I see in why the bylaw has created that section and kind of created that distinction between different forms of, I guess, animal husbandry, if we can call it that.
Okay. And through the chair,
Yep.
I guess it's just, I'd like to see it pared down as much as we can so that we don't find more exceptions or more issues later on that need to go through all this process and all the time and energy that goes into it. I don't know that is where it's at now, but if this is the best we can do, it's the best we can do. But I think when it comes to this kind of stuff, we really need to look at, and I think it's a problem at all levels of government. There's all this jargon and there's all this stuff that's hard to understand. And I've read this over and over again. It's really hard to understand what that paragraph is saying. And I think we need to make a better effort at streamlining this stuff and making it as easy to understand as possible, so anybody in the community could open it up and say, yeah, I understand what my zoning bylaw says, I understand what I can do or what I can't do, because it's just the wording of this is confusing.
Okay, thanks. So in the report, or what he's got here, it's actually delegating the regulation of chickens or anything else to animal control bylaw, and that was what you requested when we talked about this before. So I think it's crystal clear to me. I'm fine with it. Anybody else?
Well, just to say that I like the simplified documents, but to me, zoning and other legal documents that guide that people are basing their livelihoods on, I'd like to keep them as simple as we can, but they are, zoning and planning is complex by nature, so we have to, some of that it has to be, I'm sure everybody tries to make it easy to follow and understand, but just the complexity, the nature of it, it's inherently complicated.
Yeah.
Thus your point, let's try to make the language as simple as we can. And I like to think that we always will try to do that. I hope we do.
Yeah. Anybody else? I think the whole point of these housekeeping items is to try to do just what you're saying, so.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate what's been said, and I think I agree with Councilor McCann. Trying to eliminate some of that ambiguity and try to make sure it is clear, at least. But clear may mean clear with explanation too. Unfortunately, and I think especially when it comes to some of the zoning requirements, the average person in the public is maybe not going to have the depth of understanding, and will usually require some degree of explanation as to some of these finer details. So I think a lot of work has been put into trying to refine this and eliminate some of that uncertainty and ambiguity. So, thank you, Carl. I'll support the recommendation.
Everybody else? Okay, so that'll come forward next council meeting as well. Thank you, Carl. So we had two items added, 10.3, the 2024 financial statements. And C.L. Morris is going to speak to that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So at last week's special committee of the whole meeting, the auditor KPMG came and presented the 2023 financial statements. So we're bringing them forward this evening to get endorsement by committee, with, of course, is a recommendation to council to accept them, paving the way for the 24 audit to begin tomorrow.
Good. So that's a 2023. I think I said 2024. 2023. So that'll come forward quite shortly. And finally, 10.4 was added, rising from our in camera. So I'll let Clerk Costello speak to that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've had 2 applications received for the Student Counselor Program. This program was started back in 2013, and we've had much success with the program over the years. It was a bit delayed due to COVID, so it's nice to have some student interest again. We've had Mr. Ryan Hooper and Mr. Riker Smith submit their names. With Council's concurrence, I'd like to bring a resolution forward at our next meeting of Council next week, our regular meeting, to formally appoint these gentlemen as student counselors until their school year is done in June.
Thank you. Support for that? Okay, thank you. We'll do that next week. Any committee, board, external organization reports? Councilor McKenna, of course.
Just, well, we had a really, as your representative on the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan, I just wanted to give, we had one long meeting this morning. I just want to let you know, quick update on that. The new Community Safety and Policing Act is a new piece of legislation. And that's what dictates municipalities to create the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. It must be submitted to the minister by July 2025, the one we're working on right now. And it will be updated every 4 years. And council in the legislation has an obligation to follow through with actions that are identified in the plan. And if we aren't named specifically, we are to encourage and assist others in the completion of the plan. So it's a legislated responsibility. There was a public consultation done on the previous plan and current plan to identify trends. About 400 members of the public completed the survey, 37 agencies did. And there were specific focus group with police, other emergency services, and gaps and themes were identified and will inform the new plan. And I'll just give you the 4 themes that are coming to the top that affect the community well-being and safety of our populations, affordability and quality of life. So we're talking about food security and housing has a huge impact on our well-being. The healthcare system, all aspects, violence against persons, either hate motivated or partner violence, just violence in itself, either physical or hate speech, etc. And then the 4th theme is specific actions around priority populations, seniors, children, new Canadians, Indigenous people, etc. And so the next step, the draft to be available in January for our committee. We'll be presenting this plan to this council in March or April, and municipalities will be asked to sign off on it in May, and then it will be submitted to the minister by July. Just that's the heads up. And we're partnering with Lanark County in doing that. And if I had one more.
Go ahead.
Speaking of Lanark County, the mayor and I attended their county's first budget 2025 meeting. It was a good session. The levy increase they tagged for Smiths Falls is around 7%. So it's pretty significant. A lot of that has to do with, there's both increases in Ontario Works is on a significant increase path. Long-term care home requires substantial upgrades to electrical systems and breakers. Housing front is all aspects of the county are experiencing significant pressures on affordable housing. And so the county is continuing to invest in that. And other areas, emergency services, paramedic services are all going up substantially. So it's a significant increase that shouldn't shock anybody, but 7% is what our levies look like at this early stage of the budget. But they expect to have this budget finished by
Probably end of year, right?
the end of December.
Okay.
Those are my reports.
Thank you. Tough budget year everywhere, I guess. Okay, anybody else? Nope. So we have no information or correspondence. We do have another in camera, so I'll seek a motion that council, the corporation of the town of Smith Falls as provided in section 239(2)(e) of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to move in a closed meeting at 5:50 to discuss litigation updates. So we'll be back. Oh, moved by Councilor McGuire, second by Councilor Robinson. All in favor? We'll be back. Okay, we've returned. The Rising Report is the council met at a closed door meeting to discuss a litigation update, and that was just for our information. So any notice of motions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a adjournment motion that the committee adjourn its proceedings at 6:13 p.m. and stand so adjourned until the next duly called committee meeting. Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor McGuire. All in favor? We're adjourned, and we will return in 2 minutes.
We didn't even need two.
You're in charge, Carl.
We're back.
Okay. Welcome back. The special meeting of Smith Falls Town Council on Monday, November 25th, 2024. On November 25th, 2024, we acknowledge the sacred land which Smith Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years with rich indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We are grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We're also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smith Falls. We are mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, be mindful of generations to come. I call the meeting to order at 6:14 p.m. Ask for a motion for approval of the agenda, or do we require? I guess we do require that, Jess. Moved by Councillor McGuire, second by Councillor Robinson. All in favor? Ask for disclosure of pecuniary interest and/or conflict of interest in general nature thereof. There is none. There's no minutes to approve tonight. Any reports or updates or announcements? Seeing none, we have no presentations or proclamations, no consent agenda. We have one motion we'll look after tonight with Councillor Miller, please.
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Brennan that Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls receive the 2023 consolidated financial statements as prepared by KPMG LLP.
Thank you. Discussion, please.
So our 2023 statements, we discussed them at Committee of the Whole last time, and we're prepared to add them to a future council meeting. But in order to get our auditors at KPMG started on our 2024 work, we need to have the 2023 statements passed. So that's what this is about.
Okay. Any further comments? It's moved by Councillor Miller, seconded by Councillor Brennan. The Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls received the 2023 consolidated financial statements as prepared by KPMG LLP. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. We know bylaws, inquiries, or announcements. Our confirmatory bylaw. Our motion for adjournment is with Councillor Robinson, please.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Brennan, that this council will adjourn its proceedings at 6:16 p.m. and stand so adjourned until the next duly called meeting of council.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Brennan. This council adjourns proceedings at 6:16 p.m. and stands so adjourned until the next duly called meeting of council. All in favor? That's carried. We are adjourned.
Good one.
That's got to be a record.